Welcome back to another episode of 40 Facts About the 40K Universe. I am your host Gershwan and you are watching One Mind Syndicate. Today we continue with the Black Crusade as we get into the last part of the Gothic War. So let's get into 40 facts about the Gothic War. Caught between the attacking Eldar and the Ravensburg fleet, the Chaos warships were annihilated, although a dozen more of the Emperor's vessels were crippled or destroyed before the victory was finally claimed. Why the Eldar decided to lend their weight to the Imperial cause was never discovered, though it is a common belief that they had finally heard of Abaddon's capture of the Blackstone fortresses and had seen an alliance with the Monkai as their only chance for survival. Even as the news of Ravensburg's great victory at the Battle of Gethin's Main was spread throughout the fleet, even more promising tides were to come. In the late month of the 151st year of the 41st millennium, the warp storms that had isolated the Gothic sector began to abate, and several warships from neighboring Imperial battle fleets arrived to reinforce Lord Admiral's bloodiest fleets. The battle barges and strike cruisers of several Space Marine chapters also arrived, bringing fresh, elite troops to the fighting. The Imperium's solid defense, though broken in places, had prevented the Chaos warfleets from achieving swift victory, and with the help of the Eldar and Imperial ships from nearby sectors, the Emperor's servants could at last go on the offensive. Abaddon, like his rival Ravensburg, was loath to contemplate defeat, or to give up what he had once won. With 2, possibly 3 Blackstone fortresses under his command, it was the Despoiler who still presented the greatest threat in the Gothic sector. Just how much of a threat was not realized until the attack on the Tartarus system. Located on the edge of the Gothic sector, it was a common gathering ground for starships entering or leaving the region from the Tamalas sector, and so it was there that the Despoiler determined that he would stem the flow of Imperial reinforcements from entering the sector. Abaddon's main fleet, accompanied by 3 of the missing Blackstone fortresses, swept aside the few Imperial warships close to where it broke from the warp. Closing rapidly into the system, the cruisers and battleships of the Chaotic Armada punched a hole through the defenses to allow the Blackstone fortresses to break through. Once again, the Blackstones combined their power together in the same fashion as they had done at Phalaris, unleashing a massive energy wave into the Taranis star. With their objective complete, the Chaos warships conducted a fighting withdrawal and then jumped into warp space once more. As the Taranis star raged and boiled for over a month, its corona expanded to engulf the 2 nearest worlds. Any that could leave fled the system, but to evacuate the population of 3 worlds was impossible. For weeks after Abaddon's attack, Taranis star went nova, wiping out everything for many thousands of billions of miles, in every direction, in a storm of gas and superheated plasma. The entire star system was no more, and the Despoiler now possessed the power to unleash the destruction wherever he wished. As the war continued, Lord Ravensburg firmly believed that Abaddon would attempt to capture the remaining 3 Blackstone fortresses, but he had no idea against which one the Despoiler would strike next. Imperial and Eldar starships hunted for the elusive Chaos fleet for 6 months through the long-forgotten star system, in a desperate bid to find Abaddon and his horrific weapon. Then, the forces opposing Abaddon received a major breakthrough when the Eldar located Abaddon's fleet in Lower Lysindon and were able to use their sophisticated starships to trail him through the warp. From this course, it was clear that Abaddon was preparing to launch an attack on the Shinden Heist, where Blackstone 5 floated in the depths of space. Utilizing ancient warp gates shown to them by the Eldar, the Imperial admirals sped across the sector and arrived 5 days before the Despoiler was due to arrive in the area. The Imperial ships and Eldar lay in awaiting the arrival of the Chaos fleet. When the traitorous ships finally arrived, they were outnumbered and caught by surprise, leaving them little choice but to die fighting. For 3 days the 2 mighty fleets battled, inflicting horrendous casualties on both sides, but for all the ferociousness, the Chaos ships simply could not match the forces against them. As the third day of the fighting drew to its bloody conclusion, Abaddon once more broke the Blackstone fortresses through the Imperial defenses and headed towards the system's primary star. Ravensburg ordered all available ships to intercept them, though he knew there was little he could do to stop the behemoth. Only the Flame of Purity was close enough to attack, but the battlecruiser's weapons were woefully ineffective against the huge stations. Linked again by powerful energy beams, the fortresses built up the required power for another attack. Seeing no other options, in a supreme act of valor and ultimate sacrifice, Captain Abradal ordered all power to the shields and drove the Flame of Purity into the middle of the converging energy waves. The ship was destroyed almost instantly, scattered into its molecules. However, the detonation had expended the fortress's power, and as the captain had hoped, the Blackstone fortress would take some time to accumulate the energy required for another attack. Luckily, time was something that Abaddon had finally run out of. The Blackstone fortresses had been rendered all but ineffective, their power systems drained. Abaddon managed to escape into the warp with 2 of them. After a lengthy chase to the edge of the system and a jump into warp space, dangerously near to the gravity well, the Imperial fleet closed in on the 3rd, unleashing all of their weapons, although still to little effect. Finally, 2 strike cruisers from the Angels of Redemption Space Marine chapter, combined with the Shark Assault boats from the Divine Right, boarded the isolated Blackstone in an attempt to recapture it. Ensign Goldwyn was part of the Imperial Navy's boarding party during this mission, and he was the source of the report which described what they discovered. There was no crew aboard the fortress. The interior of the fortress bore little resemblance to what the Imperial forces recognized, and there was no sign at all of all the modifications made by the tech priests. The walls pulsed with energy, the surface of which had become a deep veined black, the opposite of the harsh white painted walls and corridors that had marked out the fortress's interior during the time of the Imperial control. The Imperials had been aboard for only an hour when a high-pitched whine filled the air, and the walls became reddish in color. The Imperials had no sooner left than, without warning, the fortress suddenly began to break up and slowly shatter into thousands of fragments. At about the same time as the recaptured Blackstone fortress destroyed itself, the other fortresses across the Gothic sector also self-destructed. Nobody knows if the fortresses under Abaddon's control destroyed themselves in a similar fashion, as rumors would continue to spread that the Chaos Warmaster had been sighted both with and without the ancient engines of destruction. How or why the Blackstone fortresses were obliterated remains a mystery. Inquisitor Horst believed that some things were just too dangerous to be allowed to exist, and someone or something had decided that the Blackstone fortresses were counted amongst that number. With Abaddon's fleet gone, the attention of the Imperial Navy was turned on the other Chaos fleets. The warp storm had decreased to almost their normal levels, and scores of Imperial warships poured into the Gothic sector. Many of the Chaos Warmasters followed Abaddon and fled back to the Eye of Terror. 4 battle groups, each consisting of several dozen capital ships and escorts, systematically engaged and destroyed many of those who remained, eradicating each in turn. In the Port Moss subsector, titanic running battles between Admiral Storn's 2nd Cruiser Battle Group and the war fleet of Heinrich Bale lasted for 2 standard years as the Chaos ships slipped from system to system, turning to fight when the odds were in their favor, fleeing before the Emperor's wrath at other times. Although the battle across the stars were drawing to a close, it would take further 8 standard years to retake the worlds that had been captured by the forces of chaos. Many of these worlds were utterly devastated, their population enslaved or sacrificed to the ruinous power, the lands ravaged by war. Slowly but surely, the Imperial Guard scoured these planets for the taint of chaos. The missionaries and confessors of the ecclesiarchy set about restoring faith in the Emperor, and the Inquisition hunted down those who had collaborated with the followers of the Dark Gods. The fight against the arch-enemy is never truly finished. for there are worlds within the Grail-Dark Nebula that still await the Emperor's fleet to free them. There are scattered Chaos ships and even 2 or 3 war fleets that still roam the darkness between the stars of the Hammerhead Deeps and the Cyclops Cluster, awaiting for their chance to strike again. As more warships of the followers of Chaos departed or were destroyed, Ravensburg ordered 2 of the large battle groups to concentrate on the pirates who had grown powerful during the carnage. They were each hunted down in turn. Like the Chaos fleets, many of the bands breaking up and seeking sanctuary in the Forgotten Star systems and in uncharted asteroid fields. The Orcs of the Cyclops Cluster became the target of extensive Imperial focus. Forced from the worlds where they had enslaved millions, smashed from star systems where their crude ships had preyed upon Imperial shipping. 20 years of continuous warfare had left deep scars, and it would still take centuries of blood, sweat, and toil to repair the harm, both physical and spiritual, that had been wreaked by Abaddon the Despoiler and his minions. The cost of the Imperial victory had been high for the Imperial Navy, and the battle fleet Gothic in particular, both in terms of human life and in the number of ships lost. Great sacrifices had been made, and the great heroes had met the challenge. Only through the determination, courage, and loyalty of every man and woman serving in the Imperial Navy had the war been won. The High Lords of Terra recognized the efforts of the entire sector fleet, and the name of each crewman who served in the war, from Lord Admiral Ravensburg to the lowliest ranking on the smallest merchant ship, was engraved upon the specially constructed monolith, which stands 10 times the height of a man in the Chamber of Heroes in the Imperial Palace on Terra. Inquisitor Horst slipped away to pursue his duties elsewhere, and it is rumored that he dedicated the rest of his life to hunting Abaddon and determining the ultimate fate of the Blackstone fortresses the Despoiler had escaped with. Of the success of this self-imposed mission, no reports has ever been made, and Horst himself has not been seen since the end of the Gothic War. The Imperial victory in the 12th Black Crusade bought nearly 9 centuries of quiet for the realm of the Emperor before Abaddon the Despoiler launched the greatest invasion of the Imperial space since the time of the Horus Heresy. And those were 40 facts about the Gothic War. I hope you guys enjoyed this series. Of course, we're not done. We still have to talk about the 13th Black Crusade, but I want to take a break. I need a break from all these Black Crusades. So we're going to learn about different topics. Comment down below what type of topics you guys would like to hear about. And then we'll come back to the 13th Black Crusade, which is supposedly longer and even more badass. So please subscribe to the channel to get that. If you haven't subscribed, or if you already subscribed, thank you for liking, commenting, and sharing. Your daily likes is really what's making the YouTube channel awesome. So if you guys want more Warhammer 40K content, continue to like, comment, and subscribe. Even if you just comment, Phaladon sucks. That helps out a lot. So thank you so much for listening. This was Gershwin with One Mind Syndicate, signing out.